This is Up for Debate presents Scary Movies to Watch in the Dark. Tonight, episode number 165, recorded November 13th, 2019. Chapter 4, Scream. Hello everybody, welcome to this episode of Up for Debate presents. I am Sean Jennings, joined as always by our own Ghostface killer. Ladies and gentlemen, he's seen one too many horror movies. It's Mr. Matt Mariani. Hello, Matt.
Hey, what's going on, Sean? Pleasure to be on the show tonight.
Yeah, so it was. You were hard to get. We had to book it months in advance, but
Yeah,
we
did it.
It's nice to have you finally show up on the show.
Yeah, I mean, when you offer the kind of contract that you do, I mean, it's okay. I probably could have gone elsewhere, but
Hey, we got you those blue M&Ms in the green room, though, like you asked for.
that's right. You guys are good at paying attention to detail. You read the retainer and everything, so
Yep.
that's why I'm here.
Yep, I don't know why you wanted all the bubbles manually taken out of the champagne, but we found someone to do it, so...
Yeah, it's all about the fringe benefits.
I know how
Sean.
much you like that flat champagne, so...
Yep. All about those fringe benefits. That's why I do what I do.
So anyone out there thinking about being a guest on the show, just know we're generous.
Yeah.
Matt, we're smack in the middle of our horror movie watch as we enter November for some reason. We're still watching scary movies, which is great because I think we've got a wonderful movie tonight. We've already covered a trio of classics, and we're working our way forward chronologically. We started with The Exorcist, then we did Friday the 13th, then we did The Nightmare on Elm Street, and tonight we're doing a movie I chose, 1996's Scream, a film often credited with revitalizing the horror genre, and one of the first to break the format in a number of ways. Directed by Wes Craven, written by Kevin Williamson. Now, Matt, you saw this for the first time, correct, for the show?
Yes, I had not seen this movie before.
And neither had I. So since I picked it, Matt, I'll ask you, what did you think of the movie?
Oh wow, asking the tough questions
just get
up
right
front.
in. No time
Just
to
getting
waste.
pulling no punches.
Hell no.
I thought this movie was different than I expected it to be. If that makes sense.
Yes,
it
is different.
Yeah, it had some really famous people that I had no idea. Like Courtney Cox was in this movie,
Courtney Cox,
and Drew Barrymore.
David Arquette, Neve Campbell, Matthew Lillard.
Does Courtney Cox now? I mean, you can spoil this for me. Spoilers are okay, but does Courtney Cox eventually marry David Arquette and become Courtney Cox Arquette?
Yes, she does.
Did they meet on the set of this movie?
That is what I'm Googling right now. She met her husband on the movie. That is correct, when filming the first Screen films.
Wow, what?
Yep.
No, I wasn't saying wow to that. I mean, that's kind of cool.
What
But
were you saying wow to?
Liev Schreiber was in this movie, and so was Henry Winkler.
Well, I can get
I'm
how
saying
you
wow because I didn't
realize it.
I didn't realize it when I was watching the movie.
Well,
No,
I'll forgive you for
neither of those people.
I'll forgive you for Liev Schreiber because literally he's on for a fraction of a second.
I'm looking at the cast list now.
Liev Schreiber plays Cotton, the killer who is in jail for murdering Sydney's mother, and he's only shown in like an on-television screen news report being led in an orange jumpsuit into a car. So he's in the movie for like half a second. So I'll give you that. How did you not realize Henry Winkler was in the movie?
I don't know.
He
just
plays
never
the principal.
put that. Yeah, I never made that connection that was Henry Winkler.
Oh boy.
Maybe he doesn't do any Fonz-esque stuff in the movie.
Yeah, there really aren't a lot of there really aren't any in jokes with him. But he is one of the people killed by the Ghostface killer.
I guess I kind of saw that he seemed like a famous person, like he seemed like I should know who he was, but I never. Wow, that Henry Winkler.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
A stacked cast for this movie, and quite a rarity in the horror genre. We've talked about this in our past episode. The horror genre up to this point historically had cast nobodies, mainly as a way to save money. But it was a bit of a turning point, mainly because Drew Barrymore read the script and was interested in being involved first. She was the first to sign on to this movie, and they used her name to sign other big and upcoming actors. But she actually signed on to play the main role of Sydney, believe it or not. And because of a conflict with her shooting schedule, she couldn't be there for the whole shoot. So instead, she took the role of Casey Becker because she's only in the first 10 minutes of the movie, and required less time on set.
This was also around the time when Courtney Cox was filming Friends, right? 96. There had to be some overlap there.
A lot of TV stars at this point. Neve Campbell was starring on Party of Five. She had just recently starred in The Craft, another horror movie, and this was, I think, between the second and third seasons of Party of Five. Neve Campbell came on board. It was really one of David Arquette's first major roles as well. He had done kind of guest spots here and there, but this really was his first major role. Jamie Kennedy, I think, had just done Romeo and Juliet, I think, right before that. And then, yeah, he did Scream and went on to have a not really career. So an interesting Matthew Lillard, of course, going on to be a great actor of American cinema, who you'll know from a lot of movies. And same for, Skeet Ulrich. Yeah, he's done stuff.
Sean, I'm wondering if, is this where Ghostface... No, this can't be where Ghostface Killer gets his name from. From Wu-Tang Clan.
Well, let's see.
I think he came first. I think Ghostface Killer was first, right? Wu-Tang Clan is like earlier than this movie. Has to be.
I'm trying to better known by stage name. Yeah, it doesn't say.
Huh.
Yeah, I mean, Ghostface Killer was born in 1970 and was already using the name in 1995 before Scream.
Okay. So then the movie got it from him.
It was a bit of a coincidence. You know, it is an interesting story, Matt, if you'd like to know, about the mask used in the movie.
Yeah.
If that is interesting for you. They went through a lot of iterations of the mask to design it. And they originally, Wes Craven had found a mask that was mass-produced that they really liked and wanted to use in the movie. But because it was mass-produced, they would have had to have licensed it. So they commissioned a number of versions of that mass-produced mask, hated all of them, and ended up just licensing from the costume company the actual mask. And it was one that already existed and been in the market for quite a while.
I just remember how iconic that mask became.
Oh, sure. Someone came to my house this Halloween wearing it. In
Really?
2019.
So it's still iconic today.
It's Fun World is the name of the company that made the original mask. I hope they're still making money off that. Good for them.
Oh, yeah. They're probably set for life with that. Now, I wonder why this mask took off. And not that the Michael Myers mask didn't, but you see a lot more Scream masks, I feel like.
I just think because it's easier to do as a Halloween mask. Because you look at Michael Myers, for example, and it's just one sort of... It doesn't have any big definition to it. That's what's kind of interesting about the Scream movie is the mask is constantly coming on and off. We see, like, the pranksters in the high school are wearing the mask, and it's a mask in the movie. Like, it is a Halloween mask in the movie. And so I think that lends itself better to a commercial product.
Yeah. That was one of the things I thought was cool watching the movie is that the mask is already, like, established to be iconic in the movie itself. It's not the movie that made it that way. Which I thought was neat. I didn't know that going in. I thought that this going in, I knew it was a slasher pick, but I didn't know that the murderer was not like a supernatural being. It was just a dude in a mask. I thought it was maybe like a literal like ghost or something, but it was actually based on a true murdering event, like a true killing spree down in Gainesville, Florida.
Absolutely. Danny Harold Rowling, the Gainesville Ripper.
Yeah.
which is a terrible name.
Have you ever been to Gainesville?
No.
Nah, neither
I've
have I.
rarely been to Florida.
Neither have I. Wow. Where should we begin? Where to begin with this movie, Scream?
Well, I can do a little bit of the sort
Yeah.
of lead up and creation of the movie, written by Kevin Williamson, who not only wrote Scream 2, 3, and 4, but also created Dawson's Creek, interestingly enough, a big success for him. And he penned the very successful I Know What You Did Last Summer as well. So has done quite well for himself. I don't know what he's done lately. He's been trying to break into some television and things like that. He was co-creator on the Vampire Diaries, and some other stuff. But basically, he wrote the whole film in a weekend. He needed some money. He was broke and decided he was going to write this script and get his agent to sell it. Didn't know if it was going to be any good. But Matt, do you know the original name of the movie before it was called Scream?
Gainesville Slasher. No, what was it called?
It was a title so stupid they used it for the parody. Scary Movie was the original title that Williamson wrote, and that's where they got the parody movie title from.
Really?
Absolutely. There was quite a bidding war for this script, and the winner, and an unfortunate part of the story, was the Weinstein brothers, Harvey and Bob Weinstein at Miramax. Won the script and awarded it to their Dimension Films label, which you've probably heard of before. They've released a number of major films over the years, but Scream was really their first success. You could argue it built Dimension Films. Yeah, and they went and they made the movie, and we talked a little bit about the casting there, the star casting for the movie. Yeah. So that's a little bit of the history of it for you. Obviously, Wes Craven directing, who we've covered on this podcast before. We talked about him last week with A Nightmare on Elm Street, but he's also done The Hills Have Eyes, Swamp Thing, Vampire in Brooklyn, Red Eye, Cursed, among many others.
Sean, have you ever have you ever seen a screamer on the internet?
I'm sorry, a what?
A screamer?
Do I want to know what that is?
I don't know if they still call them screamers. Back in the day, that's what they used to call those videos where you would watch them and then some scary face pops up in the middle.
Oh, I did not know that had a name.
They used to call them screamers. I'm not sure if they still do, or if they call them something else. But it was like, yeah, one of the classic ones was like find 3 things wrong with this room.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be anything wrong, but you'd be looking for a really long time, and then like a really scary face would just appear and it would scream and it would scare the crap out of you. I used to hate those. Another one was like a maze. You'd have to those would trick you because there'd be like 2 legit mazes, and then the third one would be a screamer. A lot of them would use the face from The Exorcist.
Sure.
So.
That must be why I'm so well adjusted, is because I missed that. I wasn't terrified as a child.
Yeah, it's definitely not great for your mental health to experience those things. But I think to some degree they kind of build character. So
okay, I'm gonna let you have that. I don't know if that's true, but I'm gonna let you have that.
They definitely don't. They definitely don't help with trust issues.
No.
If you already have trust issues, this is one way to, I guess, develop them. So. All right. What did you think of the opening of this movie? Like the beginning?
So, I will say overall, I really liked the movie a lot.
Okay.
In terms of the first sequence with Drew Barrymore, the first 10 minutes of the movie where she's murdered, I thought this is the money you pay when you get Wes Craven and Drew Barrymore. I thought it was really well directed. I thought it was pretty well acted by Drew Barrymore. She sounded scared. And I guess you have to give props to Roger L. Jackson, who did the voice of the garbled voice of him over the phone. What's your favorite scary movie? I can't do the voice, but You get the idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was great. I thought like if that was just like a 10-minute short, I would have been like, that's pretty cool. Did it make a lot of plot point in the movie? I don't really think so, because I get why Ghostface is going after Sydney because of her mother and all that and all the people around her. I don't get what Casey Becker ever did to get murdered.
Who did? Casey Becker did to get murdered?
Yes.
She gets the question wrong, right?
But why her? But why did they call her in the But why did they call her in the first place? Again, I get why Sydney and all her friends are getting beat up, but Casey Becker just happens to go to the same school. It's totally unrelated.
Aren't they? Isn't it because they're friends? Or
no, I don't think she's like, she sat next to me in class, but that was about it. I mean, maybe it was just a test drive but they'd already killed Sydney's mother, so.
I took it as like he didn't really need a motive. He was just kind of like, like you said,
the joke at the end of the movie is that they don't need a motive.
Yeah, he's just the murderer guy.
Did you enjoy the first 10 minutes of the film?
I actually did. I enjoyed this film a lot. I thought this was of the slasher movies. I thought this was really good. I hesitate to say that it's my favorite one.
That's fair.
Because I really want Friday the 13th to be my favorite, just because it seems the most classic. I don't know if it's because it's the oldest, but it just like it's the one that kind of started it all. It started like the slasher genre, but this one was good in that I think that really the star-studded cast helped it out. When I was watching it, for me it was just Courtney Cox and Drew Barrymore, kind of pushing the whole thing, and David Arquette.
And I thought, and I got to be honest with you, the combination of Skeet Ulrich and Matthew Lillard as Billy and Stu, I thought were great. They were at the end of the movie when it's revealed that there are two killers, which I think is a pretty good twist.
Yeah.
And it's the both of them. That performance they give at the house where they have to like stab each other and they're going, I thought that whole last third of the movie was awesome. I thought they were like, they were selling me on a level of crazy where in most movies when a killer is crazy, they're over the top Joker style lunatic crazy. And these guys, I'm like, this is like a plausible amount of crazy. Because I guess that, to me, that's when a horror film is really good, when you're like, this could really happen, right? That's kind of the idea of a horror movie. Ghostface Killer could be, not Ghostface Killer, Ghostface Killer could be at my front door, right? My phone could ring and it could be him. I think this movie sells that spectacularly well all the way throughout. Because you're right, there is no supernatural element. The whole movie, you're like, how does one person do all this? And you're like, oh, it's two people. Okay, well, that explains it. And so in that last bit of the movie, when they're kind of going over the top and he explains why he did it and they're stabbing each other, I'm like, these dudes are crazy. Like, I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah. No, that was good. That was I really like that twist. The two killers twist. I didn't see it coming. I didn't think that I was genuinely surprised by that. And I always like twists in movies, especially if they're good. I like when movies like kind of toy with you.
Yep.
Your preconceived notions and beliefs.
Did you have any guesses as to who the killer was going to be? I mean, by the end of it,
think it was going to be anybody.
Characters left.
I really didn't think it was going to be anybody significant, honestly. I thought it was just going to be an outsider.
Because the movie spends a lot of time doing a good job of setting up a lot of people as the potential killer and dropping clues throughout the whole movie. I think it's one of those, if I went back and watched it 2 or 3 times, I think I would catch things that I didn't notice the first time in terms of clues. But even Henry Winkler is the principal. They show him with the scissors going up to the guys and, being real slick with the blade. And, of course, Billy, gets accused of the murder early in the film. They set up a lot of people. Obviously Randy being so obsessed with horror movies and all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, Randy there was definitely a good chance it was him, especially in the beginning. But
then that was one of my favorite lines in the movie, was at the end. At the end of the movie, he comes running up to Sydney and says, something along the lines of course I'm still alive, I'm a virgin, or something like that. And I'm like, oh, I get it. It's one of those things where it's like the movie does play by the rules, and you're like, oh, I should have. He's the geeky, nerdy guy. Of course he's still alive at the end.
You really have to. I know that it wasn't one of my picks, but you have to see Cabin in the Woods.
Yes.
I can't stress that enough.
Yes.
That's a must see for much the reasons that you like this movie.
Well, let's talk about this movie and the sort of meta wall breaking nature of it, which was new to the horror genre at the time. Was that something you thought they did a good job of? Did you enjoy that aspect of it?
Yeah. It was very meta. Meta is a good way to put it. It was very like self-referential, and it wasn't too bad. Like it wasn't on the nose. Like I mean, obviously, Scary Movie is that for comedic effect, but it took itself just seriously enough, which is what I liked about the movie. And it's not something that you really see too much, especially not in these kind of movies.
I think, one of the taglines for the film was, someone has taken their love of scary movies one step too far. Solving this mystery is going to be murder. And I think that's an appropriate way to describe it, because I think it would have been easy for them to just make it a bunch of cliches. And frankly, I think, there's a scene where the janitor is dressed like Freddy Krueger, and I'm like, okay, that might be a little much. But I think the way the two killers sort of embodied it at the end, where they're like, literally, we just wanted to murder people. Like, we don't have a good motivation to do it. Obviously, Billy has a little bit more of a motivation, but I love when Stu at the end, and she says, Stu, what's your motivation? He goes, peer pressure. I think, I think it was just played off cleverly rather than obviously, which was nice. There's that moment at the end where, Billy's dead on the ground, and Randy goes, yeah, this is the moment in the movie where the killer would have one last jump and scare us all. And then Billy does it, and she shoots him in the head, and then that's it. Like, they didn't play it for huge comedic effect, and they didn't make a big deal out of it. They're like, it happened, and they go, okay, and they move on.
Yeah. I'm reading about the cultural impact of the Ghostface.
Oh, in terms of the murders it spawned?
No, this is much nicer stuff. This is all about the toys that it sold.
Oh,
the merchandise.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah, he appeared on like just a bunch of different shows. Obviously, various toys were made out of the Ghostface character. Yeah,
and that they still sell the costume today.
Oh yeah,
and one of the things we've talked about throughout this series, and why I'm glad we're doing it chronologically, is how movies reflect the time they're in. We talked about The Exorcist in the 70s being a little more cerebral, a little more spiritual. We talked about Friday the 13th, and even into Nightmare on Elm Street, that sort of 80s sort of sexiness to it. And then, of course, it wouldn't be a 1990s movie without meta commentary and lots of merchandising. And I do think this is the perfect movie. This movie would not have made any sense in the 70s. I don't even know if it would make sense today, because I think we wall break everything. But I think at the time, when culture was starting to fold in on itself, this is the right movie for the right time. Absolutely.
Yeah. I was just reading that Wes Craven wore the costume during the opening murder scene. That was Craven in the costume. He was wearing it. Yeah, that's an interesting take. I hadn't thought of that. That it's merchandising as a theme in this movie, or as an after effect, and the self reverence and all of that kind of we're in the 90s now, and this would have been the perfect time for all of those things to occur.
It's that 1990s thing of we're all in on the joke, right? That's what it is. We don't laugh anymore at jokes. We laugh at the fact there is a joke.
Exactly. It's more the character point. It would be like, and in a way, it's kind of like wrapping around to like vaudeville all over again. It's kind of like pointing out the absurdity of a situation rather than presenting an absurd situation. It's like Groucho Marx pointing at the scene and turning to the audience and saying, how strange is this? Like how funny is this?
Well, and that's what was so different about this movie. The late 80s, early 90s in horror was dominated by sequels and direct-to-video movies. They weren't making successful box office horror films anymore. They just weren't. And I think it takes a movie like this to jumpstart the genre a little bit, because I think audiences in the 90s start to become more intelligent about they don't just go to a movie to see a movie. They start focusing more on the content and what they're getting out of it rather than it's something that's on. And I think that's what Scream taps into. One thing, I watched a making of documentary on Scream on YouTube, and Kevin Williamson, the writer in the documentary, says, there's a reason why I wrote this script in 3 days and rushed it right to a studio, because he felt that if he didn't do it then, the script wouldn't work for much. It was a script truly of the moment, and he wanted to get it out there at the time in '96.
Yeah, it was definitely a perfect time for this kind of a movie and this kind of a franchise to establish itself.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the film made on a $15 million budget and went on to gross $173 million, a massive box office success for a film like this. It was the 15th highest grossing movie in 1996. And that's you're going up against films like Jerry Maguire, Mars Attacks, and it was the 15th highest grossing film. But you gotta remember that's right up there with blockbusters like Independence Day and Mission Impossible. The other interesting thing about this was that it was released in December 18th, which is unusual. It's a little more common today, but back in those days, they didn't really release horror movies around Christmas, and their argument was, well, horror fans got to watch something. Teens got to watch something around the holidays. It's not just family films and seasonal films.
Sure. It's interesting that it would be also around the time of the year when teens are going to be home, like alone. Maybe parents are out Christmas shopping or at Christmas parties or things like that. And this movie is very much about like, don't be alone.
Yep.
Speaking of which, I took from one of the blogs I did for research, more research into the themes of the movie. They say this film, the characters break all 4 of the big scary situation no-nos. That's number 1, boyfriends are always the suspect. Number 2, don't have sex. Number 3, don't drink or do drugs. And number 4, never say I'll be right back.
Yep.
So that's all 4 of them.
Well, it's punishment for sin, right? I mean, that's what these movies really are about.
Yeah. We saw it last week talking about Nightmare on Elm Street. It's more the sins of the parents in the community. We saw it with Friday the 13th, with the teenagers. And now it's kind of that, but it's also pointing at it and saying like, yeah, of course this would happen to me. This happens in all the horror movies.
Well,
like
it's
this way.
It's like this great quote from Sidney in the movie. Ghostface says, "Do you like scary movies?" And Sidney goes, "What's the point? They're all the same. Some stupid killer stalking some big-breasted girl who can't act, who's always running up the stairs when she should be running out the front door. It's insulting." The movie loves to point those things out.
Yeah, it does a good job. I'm just surprised that it made all these sequels. Have you seen any of the sequels?
I have not. But I am familiar with the synopsises, and it's kind of crazy because unlike most horror franchises we've talked about, it follows the exact same characters in all the movies. So it's not like the killer's the same in like a Jason or a Freddy or in any of these where it's the killer's the same and it's new people. It's the exact same people told over a series of 4 movies. And what's interesting is that when Kevin Williamson wrote the first one and provided the script to the studio, he included with it 2 5-page treatments, one for Scream 2 and one for Scream 3. His intention was to turn it into a franchise. And the first one was so successful, they made it into 2 movies. Scream 2, which follows Sydney and the gang at college, where she is attacked by a copycat killer. Which, do you want me to spoil it for you? What happens in that?
All right, spoilers ahead.
Spoilers ahead.
Yeah.
I believe, and I'm going to quickly scroll down here, that they, again, all the movies, including Scream 2 and Scream 3, copy horror tropes, and the killer, Ghostface killer in Scream 2, is Billy's mother, just like Mrs. Voorhees in Friday the 13th.
Of course. Good. There you go. They did their homework.
Yep. And what's interesting about that is Liev Shriver comes into the picture because he's been released from prison because he obviously didn't kill Sydney's mother. And Gale brings Cotton to the college campus to force like a TV moment with Sydney. And he's actually in it. He's one of the like supposed suspects throughout the movie. And then in Scream 3 is about... It's Sydney and the gang go to Hollywood because a new Ghostface starts killing the cast of a film within the film called Stab 3, which is based on the events in the Stab movies, which is based on Scream.
Wow.
It's very meta. It all gets wrapped up.
It's all a big web.
Yes.
Suddenly, Cabin in the Woods is making a lot more sense now.
It is one of those things where they just overdo it a little bit. But, yep.
I read before that the costume, the Scream costume, did you know that it's loosely based on Edvard Munch's The Scream, the famous painting?
That would make a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Now that you point that out. Yeah. Matt, I'm sure you'd be happy to know this movie won the 1997 MTV Movie Award for Best Movie.
I could see that. I could see this movie being very well loved by the MTV community.
In 1997, it beat Independence Day, Jerry Maguire, The Rock, and Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet, of course, going on to win the Best Picture Oscar.
Romeo, is that Romeo plus Juliet?
Romeo plus Juliet. I should be more specific. Another Weinstein joint.
Yep. That's the Leo DiCaprio movie.
That's right. And the woman who was in that, whose name I can't remember.
Oh, man. That's going to kill me.
See, the fun thing is I get to look it up while you're stewing and trying to figure it out.
No, I already looked it up.
Oh, is that really who it is? It's Claire Danes.
Yes.
Oh.
Claire Danes.
And like I said, who was also in it? Jamie Kennedy.
Yeah.
As Samson Montague. And then obviously...
John Leguizamo.
Oh, the great John Leguizamo.
Whoa, Paul Rudd was in this movie?
I guess.
Briefly.
That's what
he was Count Harris.
I still think John Leguizamo's best role. Oh no, I'm confusing him with the... Am I confusing him with the other guy? Which guy was in the Super Mario Brothers movie?
That was not John Leguizamo.
No, it was Bob Haskins, and then who was the other guy?
We're going on. We're going on.
Oh no,
Google
shame
adventure.
on me.
It was
John Leguizamo. Yes.
What the hell was he? Oh, he played Luigi.
I knew it.
Dang. I thought you were thinking of the guy that played Bowser, Dennis Hopper.
We need to watch that at some point for the show.
Oh, this movie was great.
Because I watched it a long time ago, and it was bad.
I just never I never really
Yep.
like he's a very young John Leguizamo.
Yep. Yep. No, and there's actually a lot of great stories behind this. As we talked about a little bit on Console Wars, actually, on the episode we did there. The
did.
film that nearly killed Bob Hoskins several times.
Yeah, that's right. I'm just Google imaging.
John Leguizamo.
No pictures of the Mario Brothers movie.
Oh, Jesus. Don't do that. You won't sleep
Oh,
tonight.
so good. It's a bomb. That's my favorite part. Always love that.
When he's like, "What's your name?" Mario. And Mario.
Mario.
And Luigi Mario.
Mario brother.
Just terrible. Goddamn the 90s.
Movie gold. Sometimes the 90s went too far. This was definitely not.
I think if I had to describe the 90s as a whole, it would be went too far.
Yeah. And wasn't Yoshi was in this movie? He was like an actual dinosaur.
Yes, he was. He was like a little raptor.
Yes, he was like a raptor. Yes.
Yep.
Oh, I love this movie. This movie was great. Oh, it was everything that it should be. They need to remake this, though.
Great is.
They need to remake this.
Do they?
Oh yeah.
Sure.
I would be more excited if they remade Mario than if they made another damn Star Wars movie.
Well, they're doing an animated one.
That's for sure.
They're doing an animated one. Will that satiate your desire?
Yeah, I guess that'll be okay. But
that'll just have to do.
If that's the best they could do, then I'll take it. But I want the live action. It's got to be another live action.
You know, Matt, we had some fun the other week when I forced you to name the top 10 grossing movies in, I don't remember what episode that was on. So I'm going to force you to do it again. As I mentioned, Scream in 1996, although I'm going to count it towards the 1997 box office because it was done in December. No, I guess I should count it. Hang on, what was the record I said where it was? Yeah, the 15th highest grossing movie in 1996. How many of the top 10 movies released in 1996 can you name?
You know that I think we established last week that dates are kind of this is kind of like my kryptonite.
I'm glad it's not me.
To movies.
I'm very glad it's not me.
It's really dates, actors, pretty much everything.
It all blends
Naming
together.
the details of movies are my kryptonite. I can't remember anything.
You know what?
I have such a terrible memory.
I'll do you a favor, Matt, because at least half of Scream's box office gross came in 1997. I'll give you name any of the top 10 movies from either year, 96 or 97.
Okay. Top grossing or award winning?
Top grossing. Domestic.
Okay.
Just think of the biggest movies of the 90s.
I'm going to totally embarrass myself here.
Probably.
Oh, man.
I couldn't do it.
I'm pretty... I'm so nervous now.
Just name any
It can't
movie.
be The Matrix. It's too early for The Matrix.
That's correct.
That was like 99.
Yeah, I think so.
And we're talking 96, 97. Yep. So we're talking like, oh man, Jay and Silent Bob.
I'm sorry, what? We want the highest grossing movies. The ones that made money.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know why I went right there first, but we're talking Terminator?
No, the first Terminator?
No, Terminator, the Judgment Day.
That was earlier.
Damn.
Think.
Oh, Die Hard.
Die Hard was in the 80s. You're not good at this.
Why?
All right, here we go. Matt, let me help you out here.
This is so hard. 96
I'll help you out.
Movies came out in 96. The Untouchables.
Oh, Lord. God help us. Matt, both the number one movie in 96 and the number one movie in 97 both starred the same person. arguably one of, if not the biggest actor of the 90s. A 90s movie hit machine.
Lethal Weapon.
No. It's like, I'm going to buy you a calendar.
Just buy me a copy of this DVD, whatever this movie
God
is.
Help us. All right, how about
Give me
this?
Another hint.
Okay, another hint. He continued to have success into the Willennium.
That was too big of a hint.
Okay.
Obviously, it is iRobot.
Oh boy,
Starring Will Smith.
Get a load of this guy. Get a load of this. What a ham. Get a load of this guy.
Toy Story.
Oh Lord. Then all right, here we go, because this is exhausting. 1996, your top 10 grossing films. Number 10, Jerry Maguire. Number 9, Space Jam. Number 8, Star Trek First Contact. Number 7, 101 Dalmatians. Number 6, Twister. Number 5, Ransom. Number 4, The Rock. Number 3, The Nutty Professor. Number 2, Mission Impossible. And number 1, Independence Day.
Sean, the only one I had a remote chance of getting on that list was Space Jam. And
You could have
you're just
gotten
lucky that I
Independence
forgot
Day.
all
Independence
about.
Day was
I
one of
forgot
the
all
biggest
about the
movies of the
greatest
90s.
movie that was made in the 90s, possibly the past 2 decades.
Twister.
Space Jam.
Oh.
So
I love Twister. And then in 1997, number 10, you should know this one, Tomorrow Never Dies. Then Flubber, Jerry Maguire, Con Air, Batman and Robin, Titanic, Air Force One,
Flubber?
Liar Liar, The Lost World, Jurassic Park, and Will Smith in Men in Black. Highest grossing movie of 1997.
Sean, did you ever see Flubber?
Oh yeah, a long time ago.
Love that movie.
I haven't seen it recently. Not really I bet you can get on Disney Plus now.
Sure, you probably could. I think that is a Disney movie.
It is a Disney movie.
Yep. Classic.
Yep. So, anyway, there you go. Other successful movies in this time: As Good as It Gets, Good Will Hunting, Liar Liar, Face Off. The list goes on and on. And obviously, Scream. Scream outgrossed The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Sean, did you know that there's a scene in Scream that makes a kind of a nod to I don't know why I didn't pick up on this in the movie, but Wes Craven has a cameo in Scream where he's dressed as Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, as the janitor.
Yeah, he has the hat and the shirt.
The thing is, I caught the Freddy Krueger thing. I didn't realize it was Wes.
It's Wes Craven, yeah. Did you catch that he was supposed to be Freddy Krueger? I didn't.
Yes, I did.
I just thought he was supposed
looked
to be like a weird
so
janitor.
stupid in the sweater and the hat.
And the hat, yeah. It's definitely an outward nod to Freddy Krueger.
Did you know that one of in the movie when they after Casey, the first murder, they show a bunch of reporters outside of the school and later at the police station? One of those reporters was played by The Exorcist's own Linda Blair.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I guess she would have been that age around when this movie was filmed. Neat. Does she get a speaking role?
I don't think so. Maybe a sentence, but nothing significant. I didn't know this. When Henry Winkler opens the closet in his principal's office, his black leather Fonzie jacket from Happy Days is hanging in it. I did miss that.
Oh, cool. That's neat. It's a neat nod.
Now I'm just looking at the Wikipedia trivia or the IMDb trivia page.
Oh, I'm looking at a blog that has all the references you may have missed in Scream. Randy at one point watches Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween.
Yes.
He pleads with her, "Turn around, Jamie. He's right behind you." Just as Ghostface creeps up on his own character. The joke works on 2 levels because Kennedy and Lee Curtis both share first names. Jamie and Jamie.
Oh, that I didn't put together, but I did. I
Yeah.
did like that moment when Ghostface is kind of just sneaking behind him and he's not noticing.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know at one point during the filming of the opening scene, somebody forgot to unplug the phone that Casey used to try and call the cops, which resulted in a real puzzled 911 operator hearing Drew Barrymore screaming for her life on the other end?
Wait, she actually called
Yes,
911?
someone forgot to unplug the phone, and she actually called 911 and screamed into the phone.
Wow. Oh man, what a day to be on the other end of that phone.
Oh yeah, that's, I'm sure, very terrifying.
Um, let's see. Williamson was inspired by some real life murder cases in his own hometown to write the screenplay. But the story itself borrows heavily from an earlier slasher film. Can you guess the slasher film, Sean? 1979 is the year.
That, no, I couldn't. What is it?
When a Stranger Calls. I was going to say this movie wasn't this remade? Was there a remake that came out like fairly recently?
There's always a remake for everything.
In the movie, Carol Kane plays a babysitter stalked by a killer who turns out to be in the house after calling her on the phone. There was a remake. I saw this in theaters. It was a while back. It was probably like the mid to late 2000s, but yeah. Yeah, Scream was the subject of much debate after real murders occurred,
Yes.
in which the killers say they were directly inspired by Craven's film.
Several.
In the movie, Williamson's script actually appears to preemptively address this discussion years before these events took place, saying movies. Ulrich's character says movies don't create psychos. Movies make psychos more creative. So it kind of presages it.
That's fair. I guess that's fair.
Yeah.
So
Those are some little details and things you may have missed in Scream.
wow.
It's worth bringing those out, I think, because this movie is self-referential and definitely makes a lot of nods in certain directions. So we should watch Clue. Have you ever seen Clue?
I've never seen
you
Clue.
Have,
of
course.
No, I haven't.
No, you haven't
I
seen
don't
the
watch
movie
movies,
Clue?
Matt. I don't
Sean,
watch movies. I would love to watch Clue, though.
Sean, you have to see Clue.
I would love to see Clue.
What?
Yeah.
Sean, Clue is such a good movie.
And I know nothing about it. So
Sean,
one of the rare movies I truly don't know anything about the plot, or other than the fact it's based.
you know the whole gimmick with it, though.
Oh, the multiple endings. Yeah, I do know about that.
Yeah, there were 3 different endings, and depending on the movie theater you went to, I love that. I think that's I think everything about this movie is. I love Clue.
I would love to watch Clue.
It's such a good movie. It's one of the best movies I think I've ever seen. It's.
Oh, I didn't
brilliant.
realize you were so in for Clue.
I am. I'm always in for Clue. That's another one with the star-studded cast.
Yes, it's amazing it wasn't a bigger success.
I know it only got it got really like not great. IMDb got 3 stars in IMDb, but it got a 92% from viewers. So that tells you though that it's a fan favorite.
Yeah, it didn't do well at the box office either.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I need to watch Clue again.
I'm in.
Sad that it's not on Netflix, but you can rent it from YouTube for $2.99.
Good to know. None of these movies are available. None of the movies we watched are available streaming anywhere. I had to rent all of them.
Yeah.
Matt, any final thoughts on Scream?
Final thoughts. This movie was really. I mean, I've seen all the scary movies like going in, so I got a lot of the references, like the things that they parodied in those movies. But I didn't know that this movie kind of references itself a whole bunch of times too, and I thought that was kind of cool. I also, again, I really like twists in movies, especially in horror, because like it's like doubly like you're scared and you're on edge and all that, and then you're also I think it kind of gets you hooked into the plot, and then it kind of turns everything on its head. So I like that part of it too. Um, Overall, I enjoyed this movie. I thought Clue was a really good movie. I don't know. I thought it was definitely. I can't say it was my favorite so far.
No,
I
that's
think that
okay.
that space still goes to The Exorcist, and it might always kind of be there. But um, it was a really good. I think it was a good pick. This was definitely a good pick. It was my favorite of the slashers, I guess, for different reasons. Like
Yeah, well, Exorcist isn't a slasher, you know?
it's not. Yeah, it's more of a slow paced,
It's
cerebral
a horror movie.
horror movie. Yeah, which will be much like our a couple of our upcoming picks. We're kind of are we halfway through or more? We're
No,
more
we're
than that.
close. This was 4 or 6, so
Yep,
we're
we've
gonna
got
wrap this up
two left.
before you know it.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I really enjoyed the movie. I thought it was great. I think my favorite thing about the movie was the actors and the character development, because I love the references and I love the twists and all that. But I think this movie does something slasher movies before it didn't do. And we talked about this with Nightmare on Elm Street, for example, where there's no character development, right? It's just, here's some people, we're going to murder them. But I think this movie does a good job of actually setting up the characters and having them acted well. Like, towards the end of the movie, when all this crap kept happening to Sydney over and over, like, I was feeling for her and was scared for her, which doesn't usually happen to me in scary movies because I just realize they're movies. And this one really captured me, and I thought the killer's acting was excellent, both guys, and that's what really got me excited. So I enjoyed this movie a lot. And supposedly Scream 2 is pretty good, so I may have to check it out.
Okay.
Yeah, so like I said, that was our 4th film of our little series here. And Matt, the next movie is your pick.
It is. We're back to my picks. We're going into see, yeah, this is how bad I am with dates. 1997,
Nope.
98,
Nope.
99.
99. 1999.
1999 with the Blair Witch Project.
Mm.
The Blair Witch Project.
So this the start of the no budget, handheld, independent horror film genre.
Mm-hmm. So we'll be taking a look at that next week. And Sean, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about your cat that's giving you kisses at the moment?
I feel like he's an enormous pain in the ass who doesn't know boundaries.
All right.
See there, he'll just lick my forehead and groom my hair. This is my life, Matt. All right.
Well, it could be worse. You could be a group of teenagers wandering in the New England wilderness.
I got to be honest, Matt. He's the best roommate I've ever had. Sorry, don't take it personally.
Technically, I wasn't a roommate. I was a housemate.
He doesn't leave his beard shavings all over the sink for me to eat.
He doesn't. He probably eats them himself.
That's right, he does. He's very well trained.
Those were a gift, Sean.
No,
it was a gift.
A disgusting gift. Now, have you seen the Blair Witch Project before?
I have, yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's another one of my all-time favorites for a bunch of reasons that we'll get into in depth. But how do you feel overall going in to see it?
I've never seen it, and I'm not optimistic.
I
don't think I'm going to like it.
You're supposed to get really, really close to the camera and go, "I'm so scared." That's what I was building up to there. But
I've never seen the movie, so I can't get the reference.
It's kind of hard to do when you've got a giant feline in front of you.
It's way too well lit in here for that. Yeah, Matt, it's something about a movie that I'm technically competent enough to make doesn't really have me excited, but I'm going to go in with an open mind.
You might be surprised. I don't know.
I'm going to go in with an open mind. But what I'm excited about isn't the movie itself so much. It's what I've actually liked about all the movies to watch is what the movie represents. Because 1996 was a huge leap forward in mass media, in how films were developed and how they were marketed and how they were released. And the Blair Witch really did start an entire genre. So that, to me, is an exciting part of the conversation we'll have next week. Will the movie be good? I don't know. I don't
I
know.
guess we'll just have to wait and find out.
That's going to be here, Matt. I will tell you the first question I'm going to ask next week, and I'm going to try to answer is this a good movie or a gimmick? That's what I want the answer to, and I'm going to look for that as I watch this film.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. I hope that you are. I hope that you are pleasantly surprised, but once again, you have proven in the past that you don't necessarily always like good things. So
no, that's true. I like a lot of bad things. So anything's possible.
Find out.
Anything's possible. I'm excited. And we got one more movie of yours after that. So we got a couple more to go. It's going to be a spooky Thanksgiving. So stick with us. Again, our website is upfordebate.tv. You can go there and check that out. We've got all the past episodes, including the other movies we've already covered. If you're a big horror fan and you haven't listened to the other episodes, you should. They're very good. And you can subscribe wherever you get podcasts. Up for Debate. Just search for us on any major platform, and the video version's on YouTube. And of course, you can contact us at UpForDebateTV on Twitter and UpForDebateTV@gmail.com. Matt, any parting thoughts?
There was one funny line about cell phones in the movie Scream, and I just want to leave everybody with that line. The dad, one of the dads or somebody in the movie is like, "Why do you have that cellular
Where'd you
phone?
get that cell phone?
Where'd you get that cellular telephone?" I thought that was one of the probably the funniest line in the whole movie. So I'll leave you with that.
Yeah, this film really reminded me of cordless phones in the house. Like I forgot those existed.
Right. It's a movie that I think would be really hard to do today. Like it would have to be done with creepy text messages instead.
Well, movies have tried that where it all takes place in a laptop, and movies that kind of use technology to.
Yeah, but it just doesn't seem to be the same. I don't know.
Well, supposedly there was, and again, this is one of those in the news things that I don't think's ever been proven, but supposedly there was a big jump in people getting caller ID following Scream. Now, that just sounds like more of a marketing story than a real one, but still.
It's like the people that were avoiding beaches after Jaws.
Exactly. Yeah, how real is it? I don't. But that was around the time.
Marketing.
When was caller ID introduced? I think it was around not too long after that. So
it was definitely around that. It
was first standardized in '93. So, 1995. So yeah.
You remember beepers? Remember pagers?
Oh man, do you know
that,
what is it? I just read a story that Japan is finally shutting down their last beeper network this year.
Oh no, tragic.
Yep.
They're big on the old technology. A lot of their offices still use fax machines, a lot of them. Fax is still kind of the norm from what I understand.
Oh, in
a lot of places.
At my company, we redesigned our business cards, and I had to explain to them why we don't have to put our fax number on them anymore, because we still were last year. And I'm like, seriously, how many faxes do we get? And they're like, maybe 2 a month. And I'm like, we don't have to put the fax number on the business cards. We look like old fogies.
Yeah, if you do business with Japan, though. But I guess it's more there, one way. You send faxes to them.
Oh my God, Matt!
Their faxes.
Can we each get a fax machine and fax each other stuff?
Yeah,
I think bring back the fax machine.
Just don't send me any pictures of your butt or your cat's butt.
Oh, I can do that with my cell phone. I don't need a fax machine for that. No, I'm going to send you data and spreadsheets and orders and other things business people fax. Contracts.
I will review them. Mm-hmm. I'll go through them thoroughly.
Oh, please do. I'll
present them at the next board meeting. So.
I want all those little sticky tabs with the arrows that point to where I have to sign.
Yep.
Just like initial. Any good contract. Yep. Initial here.
Perfect.
Sweet.
Perfect.
Well, we'll work on those contracts, but the rest of you, get out of here. On behalf of Matt, I'm Sean. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time for another spooky episode of Up for Debate.